People tend to think controversy either destroys a channel or just fades away, but sometimes neither thing happens. Sometimes the backlash gets smaller, the platform keeps moving, and the next story starts overtaking the last rupture. Hi, my name is Stina. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to come back to hidden true crime, but from a slightly different angle. Not just the controversy itself, but what happened after. Because after finishing my series earlier this year, I started paying attention to how the channel kept moving, how the backlash seemed to narrow, and why something like this doesn't necessarily end a large platform. A lot of people think controversy does one of two things. Either it destroys a channel or it fades away. But I don't think that's what happened here. I think what happened is more in between, because I don't think this ever fully went away. There are still people who are very angry about hidden true crime, especially about Lauren. There are still creators and comment sections carrying that forward. But I also would not say it stopped the channel. When I started looking back through their uploads, one thing became clear pretty quickly. The content machine was already there before the controversy. Before the 9-hour live stream, before the famous response video with Lauren and Dr. John, before all of that, hidden true crime already had a very clear rhythm. High output posting, dramatic thumbnails, urgent titles, active cases covered from multiple angles. Not just one update and then moving on. The same case coming back again and again through a different hook, a different detail, a different emotional endpoint. So I don't think the controversy created that model. It didn't. That model was already in place, had been in place for a long time. What happened instead, at least from what I'm seeing, is that the controversy hit right in the middle of an already functioning content engine, and that engine kept going. That's the key. Because when you compare the before and after, the biggest pattern is not that the thumbnails suddenly became dramatic. They were already dramatic. It's not that clustered case coverage suddenly appeared. That was already there too. But what changed is that once the channel itself became part of the story, that same system kept doing what it already knew how to do. Take active cases, build multiple angles around them, and keep the audience moving to the next upload, and the next one, and the next one. That's why the Nick Reiner cover stood out to me. Not because they covered it at all, like just about every content creator did, except me, but because you could see the platform so clearly. One case, multiple angles. Family framing, motive framing, psychology framing, warning sign framing, new details framing. Same case, new hook. New title, new reason to click. And once I noticed it there, I started noticing it elsewhere too. That's when this stopped feeling like a one-off and started looking more like a system. A system where the channel doesn't necessarily need one giant exclusive to keep attention. It can take a case that already has heat and keep returning to it through new hooks and new frames. And to be fair, that takes skill. That is not nothing. There is a difference between breaking new information and packaging public information extremely well. And hidden true crime clearly knows how to package. So for me, the bigger question became this. Did the channel survive the backlash partly because this machine was already built to outpace it? Because that's what it looks like. Not that the backlash vanished, not that everyone forgave them, not that people forgot, but that the channel already had a structure capable of absorbing disruption and moving on to the next focal point. And there's another layer here that I think matters. Before the controversy, Dr. John was not in every video or podcast, of course, but when he was there, it often had more of a separate screen feel. Separate feed, separate room. Lauren moderating, him doing most of the interpretive talking. That structure already existed. What feels more noticeable after that rupture period is not that John suddenly appears out of nowhere. It's that the visual presentation feels broader. Sometimes it's still the old separate screen format. but sometimes it's the two of them physically sitting together in the same frame. That may sound small, but I don't think it is, because visually, that changes the feel. A split screen expert setup feels one way. A shared frame setup feels more unified, more visibly paired, more like the duo itself is part of the package, not just the analysis. So again, I'm not saying the whole channel reinvented itself after the controversy. I'm saying the core machine was already there. The pace, the clustering, the repeated angles. But afterwards, some parts of the presentation felt more visibly foregrounded. The duo, the unity, the shared frame, the continued motion. And meanwhile, the backlash didn't disappear. It narrowed. That's the pattern I keep coming back to. The controversy stopped being the main story for everyone, but it stayed alive in a smaller, more committed pocket of viewers and creators who are still tracking it, still talking about it, still angry about it. And part of the reason may be simple. A channel this large usually is not ended by controversy alone. By that point, new viewers are constantly coming in. Some existing viewers do not care, and others experience cognitive dissonance when new information clashes with the trust they already placed in the creator. Once a platform has scale and momentum, it becomes much harder for backlash alone to fully stop it. So, what you end up with is not resolution. You end up with compartmentalization. One audience moves on and keeps consuming the channel as a functioning true crime brand. Another audience stays attached to the rupture, and the channel keeps going anyway. That, to me, is a real story here. Not whether the controversy happened. We know it did. Not whether the backlash was real. It clearly was. The more interesting question is what happens when a controversy does not fully destroy a platform, but also does not fully disappear. What happens is this: the audience splits, the backlash narrows, the machine keeps moving, and the next story starts trying to outrun the last one. And I think that is exactly what makes this worth looking at. Thank you for visiting with me today. See you soon.